May 28, 1989, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 400,000 people are watching a white Pontiac lead 33 race cars to the green flag. It is not a Corvette. It is not a V8. It is a Trans Am with a turbocharged V6 borrowed from a dead Buick. And at this exact moment, it is the fastest accelerating production car money can buy in America. At any price. We made a video about this car once, and we got it so wrong that today we owe it something no channel enjoys giving: an apology. Yes, you heard that right. Car Chronicles is issuing a correction, a full episode of one. A while back, we told you the Turbo Trans Am was a mediocre footnote with a detuned engine that died from indifference. Then the comment section arrived, with sources. With period road tests. With the calm, patient tone of people quietly sharpening pitchforks. They were right, we were wrong. So today, we are doing what General Motors never did for this car, giving it the respect it earned. Let me paint you a picture of American performance in 1989. The average family sedan had the personality of a dishwasher. The Mustang GT made 225 horsepower. The Camaro iroc-z topped out at 240. And the mighty Corvette, America's plastic flagship, offered 245 horsepower and the smug confidence of a car with no real domestic rivals. Detroit was recovering from the dark ages, slowly, like a patient learning to walk again. Meanwhile, at Pontiac, the calendar was staring back at them. 1989 marked 20 years of the Trans Am. The Screaming Chicken, the Bandit, the whole glorious circus. An anniversary like that demands more than a sticker package and a commemorative keychain. And Pontiac had also landed the job of pacing the Indy 500 that May. So the question landed on the desk of Pontiac engineer Bill Owen. How do you build a birthday present worthy of 2 decades and fast enough for the most famous racetrack on Earth? The first idea was pure Pontiac, an all-aluminum V8. Exotic, expensive, and it went exactly nowhere. The project never materialized. Plot twist. The answer was not in Pontiac's engine catalog at all. It was sitting in storage, orphaned, wearing a Buick badge. Because 2 years earlier, Buick had built the most feared engine in America, and then General Motors killed the car it lived in. Quick history lesson. From 1982 to 1987, Buick, the brand your grandfather trusted with his cardigan collection, built the Grand National. A blacked-out, turbocharged Regal that looked like Darth Vader's company car and embarrassed V8s for a living. By 1987, it made 245 horsepower, and street racers spoke about it in whispers. For the grand finale, Buick teamed up with McLaren to build the GNX. 547 cars, 276 rated horsepower, 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. And then, at the very peak of the legend, General Motors killed it. Not because it failed, because the Regal was switching to front-wheel drive for 1988, and a front-wheel drive turbo muscle car makes about as much sense as a screen door on a submarine. The Grand National was dead, but its heart, that angry turbo V6, was still warm. 2 years pass, 1989, and somewhere in California, that same engine is being unpacked, measured, and improved. The engine was about to outlive the car that made it famous. And here is the part we got completely wrong the first time. The part that matters. Pontiac did not borrow a leftover. They took a legend's heart and gave it an upgrade. Let me show you exactly what they did. Problem number 1. The Buick engine physically would not fit between the Firebird strut towers. The Grand National cylinder heads were simply too wide. The solution sounds like a downgrade, and it was actually genius. Pontiac used the cylinder heads from GM's front-wheel drive 3800 V6. Narrower, yes, but also better flowing, with a more efficient combustion chamber than the Grand National's own heads. Read that again. The compromise was an upgrade. And Pontiac was just getting started. A cross-drilled crankshaft for better oiling, the bigger, denser intercooler design from the GNX 12 cooling fins per inch instead of the Grand National's 10. Custom stainless steel headers. A higher pressure fuel regulator. A recalibrated engine computer. This was not a detuned hand-me-down. This was the Buick Turbo V6 in its final, most refined form. We told you the opposite once. Consider this paragraph, our formal act of contrition. The build itself was delightfully complicated. A specialty engineering firm in California, called PAS, assembled the engines at their City of Industry plant. From there, the engines traveled to GM's Van Nuys factory, where they were installed into Trans Am GTA bodies on the regular assembly line, and then the finished cars went back to PAS for testing and quality control. GM debated building anywhere from 500 to 2,500 of them, and settled on 1,500. The final count, 1,555. And a fun fact for the trivia crowd, the 5 pilot cars were not even white. Now, the numbers. Officially, Pontiac rated the engine at 250 horsepower and 340 pound-feet of torque. 250. Remember that number, because it is doing something very sneaky. The 1989 Corvette was rated at 245. So on paper, the birthday Firebird beat America's sports car by exactly 5 horsepower. 5, that is not a performance gap. That is a polite cough. Except the paper was lying. Period testing. Dyno results and trap speeds from the era suggested the real output was closer to 300 horsepower. So why the modest rating? Automotive historians have believed for decades that the answer lived in an unwritten rule inside General Motors. Nothing embarrasses the Corvette. At least, not on paper. On the street? Well, the street does not read spec sheets. The rest of the car got the full treatment too. The WS6 performance suspension. 16-inch wheels wearing Goodyear Gatorbacks. And, this is the detail that makes enthusiasts smile, the 1LE brake package. 12-inch discs, clamped by twin-piston aluminum calipers borrowed directly from the Corvette. So the Trans Am did not just outrun the Corvette, it stopped using the Corvette's own brakes. If you enjoy irony served at this temperature, the subscribe button is right there. We serve it weekly. Still with me? Good. Because so far, this is just clever engineering. What happened next is the part that made car and driver's test crew check their equipment. Twice. June 1989. Car and driver straps their test gear to a white turbo Trans Am and launches it. 0 to 60 miles per hour, 4.6 seconds. 4.6 in 1989. And this was not drag strip wizardry with a brutalized clutch. There was no clutch. You put your foot down, the automatic did the math, and physics filed a complaint. Car and driver's conclusion was the kind of sentence marketing departments frame on office walls. They declared it the quickest 0 to 60 car available in any American showroom, at any price. Any price. The quarter mile fell in 13.4 seconds at 101 miles per hour, and top speed ran past 150. In 1989, those were exotic numbers, Italian numbers, coming from a Pontiac with a birthday cake on the window sticker. Let's line up the class of 1989, shall we? The Corvette needed roughly a second longer to reach 60. The Camaro iroc-z, same body, same corporation, needed about a second and a half more. The Mustang GT, even further back. A 6-cylinder Firebird was giving America's entire V8 aristocracy a head start. And still winning. And Pontiac was about to rub it in, on live national television. Oh, and one more comparison, because this one is delicious. When Car and Driver later ranked the quickest cars of the entire 1980s, the Turbo Trans Am tied the Porsche 911 Turbo. A Pontiac, tied with Stuttgart's finest, for roughly 1/3 of the price. Somewhere in Germany, an engineer quietly loosened his tie. And what about its own bloodline? The legendary GNX. The 547-car Buick that collectors now treat like a religious artifact ran neck and neck with the Turbo Trans Am. The Pontiac matched it. The younger sibling showed up to the family reunion wearing the same stopwatch, plus a handling suspension, plus Corvette brakes. Let that sink in. Then came May, the Indy 500. Here is a tradition nobody advertises. For decades, pace cars were quietly hot-rodded by the factory just to survive track duty. Hidden upgrades, special engines. Polite cheating. The Turbo Trans Am received strobe lights, radios, and safety equipment. That is all. Mechanically stock. Pontiac's ad campaign said it best. The only modification it needed to pace the Indy 500 was a decal. They were so proud of that line. They ran the ad in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. Confidence. Absolute. On race day, 3-time Indy winner Bobby Unser sat behind the wheel and led the field to green. The same race Emerson Fittipaldi would go on to win. It was the second time a Trans Am paced Indianapolis. And, though nobody knew it yet, It was the last time Pontiac ever would. History has a sense of timing, and a sense of humor. Take a moment with that image. A 6-cylinder Pontiac pacing the fastest race on Earth, completely unmodified. While the Corvette watched from the parking lot, breathe, because now we owe you the fine print. We promised you honesty this time, so here it is. Car and driver also reported that the ride was, let's say, committed. The suspension pounded over pavement joints so hard that testers joked the tires might be made of solid rubber. The fat Goodyears occasionally rubbed the fenders in normal driving. This was not a luxury coupe with a turbo garnish. It was a rocket with leather seats, and by the magazine's own account, the old turbocharged Buicks were far more comfortable to live with. And yes, the eternal complaint, there was no manual transmission, not optional, not available. Every single car came with a 4-speed automatic because it was the only gearbox in GM's catalog that could reliably digest 340 pound-feet of torque in this package. The internet still argues about this daily. The stopwatch, meanwhile, stopped arguing in June of 1989. So why did it disappear after 1 year? Here is where our old video committed its greatest sin. It did not die. It was never meant to live longer. This was a planned, 1-year, 20th anniversary edition. The donor platform for its engine had been dead since 1987, and the supply of turbo hardware was finite. Pontiac built the run it intended, sold it, and closed the book. Calling that a failure is like calling a fireworks show a failure, because it ended. But here's what almost nobody noticed at the time: the math. The sticker price was roughly $30,000, nearly $10,000 more than a V8 Trans Am GTA. In 1989 money, that was a serious conversation with your bank manager. For context, the GNX had cost $29,900 just 2 years earlier, and people called that insane too. Buyers hesitated, dealers explained, and all 1,555 of them eventually found homes exactly as planned. Now fast forward to today, because the collector market has finally done its homework. Clean turbo Trans Ams typically trade in the $40,000 to $60,000 range. A pristine pace car brought $59,000 on, rent a trailer in 2024. Burt Reynolds' personal example touched $110,000 at auction, celebrity tax included. Meanwhile, its cousin the GNX has climbed well into 6-figure territory. Same era, similar rarity, nearly identical acceleration. Think about that gap for a second. 547 GNXs, 1,555 Turbo Trans Ams. The Buick wears the mythology, the Pontiac wears the asterisk. Collectors pay for legend, and legends are written by storytellers. Which brings us to an uncomfortable question. Who exactly buried this car's story? The magazines loved it. Indianapolis celebrated it. So who got it wrong? Well, among others, we did. A certain automotive documentary channel, name withheld to protect the embarrassed, once told its audience this car was slow, sad, and forgettable. The audience, bless every pedantic bone in their bodies, brought receipts, period road tests, registry data, publication dates. This episode exists because being corrected is not humiliation. It is quality control. The same process PAS ran on every single car. We just ran it on ourselves. Deep breath. We are almost at the part where we say the quiet thing, loudly. For the record then, clearly and permanently, we said this car needed more than 6 seconds to reach 60. The truth is, 4.6. We said it launched the same year the Grand National died. The truth is, it arrived 2 years after. We said the engine was weakened. The truth is, it was the most refined version of that engine ever sold to the public. We called it a failure. The truth is that in 1989, no production car in any American showroom accelerated harder at any price. That is the record, and now it is straight. And there is a quiet poetry in where this story ends. The Turbo Trans Am was the final production home of the Buick Turbo V6. The engine that spent the 80s terrifying V8s from beneath a Buick hood took its last ride wearing a Firebird on its nose, pacing Indianapolis in front of 400,000 people. Machines do not get funerals, but if they did, this one paced its own, at full boost, with the entire field behind it. The lesson stands in plain sight. A small, turbocharged 6 had just out-accelerated every V8 in the country. Efficiency beating displacement, boost beating tradition. It would take American manufacturers roughly 2 more decades to fully embrace that idea. The Turbo Trans Am was not behind its time. It was so far ahead that everyone assumed it was lost. So the white Pontiac that led 33 race cars to the green flag in May of 1989 turns out to be exactly what it looked like that morning, the fastest thing in the building with a license plate. It never needed our apology to be great. It was great the entire time. It just needed someone to finally read the road tests out loud. Consider them read. If you enjoy stories where the underdog wins on the stopwatch, loses in the history books, and occasionally watches a documentary channel eat its own hat, subscribe because more forgotten legends are waiting for daylight. And drop a comment if you knew the real numbers all along. You probably did. We have learned our lesson about doubting you. This is Car Chronicles, where every legend gets a second lap, even us.